the late Mr. Rupert Ebanks. The funeral service will take place tomorrow, Saturday, the 14th of August, 2021, at 3 p.m. Viewing will be from 2 p.m. until 2:45 p.m. That will be at the Wesleyan Holiness Church, Northwest Point Road in West Bay, Grand Cayman. So those of you who are interested in attending the funeral, that's tomorrow, 14th, 3 p.m., viewing from 2 to 2:45 p.m., Wesleyan Holiness Church, Northwest Point. And I would expect that there will be a large contingent from, what was formerly the Immigration Department. Mr. Rupert was a fixture within the Immigration Department, well liked by not only his co-workers but the public, because he was such a kind man. He was so considerate and always tried to help persons, irrespective of whether or not they may have transgressed some legislation or whatever. He was always sympathetic, and while he knew that he had to enforce the law, he did that with a certain amount of humility and kindness, as well, and that was appreciated by everyone. So again, condolences to Mr. Rupert Ebanks' family, and we hope that all of you will show up to pay respects to Mr. Rupert tomorrow as well. So, folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, wherever that may be. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Art Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. During that period, our phone lines are open. This morning, it is the radio voice of DJ Lynn, waiting to take your calls. You can call us on a toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Email us at For the Record, one word, For the Record at candw.ky. WhatsApp us, 925-3261, where you can send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. I will share with you this morning the last update as far as the COVID-19 is concerned. And this was issued yesterday, the 12th of August. And the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. John Lee, reported that 394 COVID-19 tests had been carried out since it was last reported on Wednesday. There were 2 positive test results in travelers. So those positives were coming from persons who travel, not persons who were in the community. So far, there have been 99,194 COVID-19 vaccinations given in total in the Cayman Islands. Of these, 50,682, which represents 71% of the 71,106 population, have had at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, and 48,512 have completed the 2-dose course as well. And the first part of the show this morning, we're going to have a lot to say about the whole issue of vaccine hesitancy, what the government has done, what the government has not done, who seems to be controlling the narrative as far as vaccination in the Cayman Islands is concerned as well. And my take on it is that, yes, while the government is doing their part, it appears as if those persons or organizations that are in opposition to either mandatory vaccination, which the government has not indicated that there will be any mandatory vaccination, but those who are in opposition to vaccination, period, COVID-19 vaccination, seem to be controlling the narrative at this point in time, or at least in some circles, controlling the narrative. And the government needs to come out of exile as far as urging persons to be vaccinated and take control of the narrative, because it seems to be going the other way, as we speak. And yes, as we talk about it this morning, we will concede, we'll agree that those choices as far as whether to take or not to take the vaccine, left up to individuals, and that whatever they do, it should be done based on information that they receive. It should be credible information coming from experts, coming from I'm getting tight-tongued now. Those who are experts in immunology. That's where it should be coming from. You can be a medical doctor and you may have some knowledge about immunization and viruses, but there are medical experts who specialize in that area, and simply because you are a medical practitioner does not necessarily mean that you're an expert in the field when it comes to viruses. And there are medical practitioners here in the Cayman Islands, and I would venture to say probably even at the Health Services Authority, who may not agree with vaccines and with taking this COVID-19 vaccine, because not everyone is going to agree. But as we see throughout the world, the majority of countries are pushing to get their populations vaccinated. They're craving to get the vaccine. And why? Because at this point in time, that the vaccine appears to be the only viable solution that we have in terms of combating COVID-19. I know we want to talk more about this, and I have talked from 7:30 to 7:45. We're going to take a commercial break. When we return, I'm going to get Dr. Steve McFeel involved in this conversation as well. I would ask you to hold off on your calls until after the 8 o'clock news, because when we return from this commercial break, we'll have about 10 minutes before we go to the news. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Energy and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It's my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning Dr. Steve McField. So, Doc, you heard my speech there in relation to the vaccine process. Your views?
Yes. And following on from what you just said, Mr. For the Record, there is some wild talk out there, misguided talk out there about challenging the government by judicial review in their decision to demand that
work permit
holders, if they want to continue working in this country, that they have to take the vaccine. I don't know how that gets into this in the equation, because the government can demand that anyone who is not Caymanian to come to this country must take the vaccine, and that is because the Bill of Rights says that is not discriminatory. Mm-hmm. What is discriminatory in the Bill of Rights is set out in Section 2. And it says that you cannot treat people, different persons on any grounds, such as sex, race, color, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, association with a national minority, age, mental or physical disability, property, birth, or other status differently. Mm-hmm. But what Section 4(1)(b) says, that the government can pass any law with respect to the entry into or exclusion from or the employment, engagement in any business or profession, movement or residence within the Cayman Islands of persons who are not Caymanian. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it was just last week that I looked at a person's permanent residence with a right to work. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And on that permanent residence with a right to work, the government had the regulations on it that the person could only work in the Cayman Islands as a landscaper. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's the only business that he could be employed in or take part in.
And if he wanted to change that, he would have to apply to...
He would have to apply to the government to allow him to change that. Mm-hmm. So this wild talk about taking the government to court because the government has made a decision that work permit holders have to have the vaccine is utter rubbish. Mm-hmm. Okay. And what it does, it sends the wrong message to the Caymanian people about the intention of the government to protect the whole Caymanian people. Mm-hmm. Because that is for, and as I said on Wednesday when I was here with you, the decision of the government has to be whether they are protecting the rights of the people, all the Caymanian people, mm-hmm. or they are protecting the interests of public health. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's the question that we have to ask the government, and that the government is trying to manage the interests of individual rights or the interests of public health.
Mm-hmm. Now we can't compare the U.S. to the Commonwealth countries because their judicial framework is somewhat different, but we saw where the Supreme Court, in a case with the university yesterday, ruled that the university can require students to be vaccinated in order for them. And again, I believe that they're looking along those lines of, the public health.
Public health.
That's...
The court even in the U.S. the court has come down on the side of public health, and says that public health, the interest of public health trumps the right of the individual, and for someone to start talking about taking the government to court because the government has made the decision that all work permit holders here have to be vaccinated. is other rubbish. The government can exclude them from coming to the Cayman Islands or exclude them from continue working in the Cayman Islands if they refuse to obey the government's decision to be vaccinated.
Okay, we have about a minute and a half left. Let's talk left before the news. Let's talk about private employers. And first of all, I want to say kudos to those who have insisted that either their employees be vaccinated or they will have to be tested on a regular basis. And what people have to understand there is that while there may be a contractual agreement between employer and employee, a legally binding contractual agreement, at the end of the day, it is the employer's option as to whether or not to hire you. They are not obligated to hire you.
Exactly. And the question of whether an employer refuses to continue to work because you do not take the vaccine would be a question of whether or not that is a constructive dismissal or not. And that would have to be tested in our courts. You cannot go around saying otherwise unless that is a case that has been brought to court. Now we say here on the radio that perhaps the employer should not be able to demand the vaccine of someone who's already in his employment. But certainly, if you are going into the employment, the employer can demand that you have the vaccine before he hires you.
Mm-hmm. And we also have to recognize that equally important is the safety of the customers, the clients of that employer, as well as his employees. We strike that balance and protect both as well. Okay, top of the hour, 8 o'clock news, folks. When we return, the conversation with Dr. Steve Macfield will continue, so please stay tuned.
Yes.
DJ Lynn,
I believe if we took a...
DJ Lynn, you ready for the news? Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve Macfield. Doc, we've received several WhatsApp messages while we were on the break or before, so I'll share some of those, and I believe we do have a caller on hold as well. Not yet. Okay, I'm sure that we will soon. So this listener's written and said, for what it is worth, the United States of America is now calling for the return to masks and social distancing. Israel is in its worst outbreak, and it's amongst the most vaccinated countries, as well as Gibraltar, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and other low-vax jurisdictions have low infection rates. These stats are from governmental authorities of the individual mentioned countries. The so-called vaccine is not our only hope. Independent research seems to be get the facts and for oneself, including the ingredients in the vaccine. In calling for an immunological specialist to speak on the virus and treatment, they have tried to discredit Dr. Lee and Nurse Hazel Brown in that regard. Another one of our listeners wrote and shared with us. He said, breath of fresh air, OC. As long as you are here, we can breathe easily. You and Dr. Steve Macfield. Says, public health trained specialist, Dr. Samuel Williams. Hazel, immunologist, virologist, anesthesiologist, pulmonologist are the untapped specialists that we have here in the Cayman Islands. So one person is saying we don't have them. The other person is pointing out the expertise of Dr. Samuel Williams as well as Dr. Hazel Brown. Also, let's grab the caller first. Let's take the caller. We do have a caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Ossie. Good morning, Dr. Steve.
Good morning, Mr. Framamba.
Yeah. It's all good to listen to you this morning. I just want to comment. None of you need to be validated by me, but I want to validate you on two issues. One, Dr. Steve, you said very cogently, I thought, that these people who are suggesting that there should be a judicial review against the requirement of non-Caymanians coming in, and that they should not be required to have vaccinations.
Yes.
I mean, of course, legally what you said was 100% correct, but I will add to say that is totally nonsense.
Yes, it is.
It is nonsense. You are insulting the last government, which did a very good job on COVID, and the new government is continuing in that vein, and you don't have to walk around in a mask. And you want to say, when you are from outside Cayman, you want to come to Cayman, you say, I want to come here, and I want to come here on my conditions. I mean, that's insulting to government. It's totally ridiculous. And then secondly, you mentioned also about the new employer. Again, you were so right. If you are a new employee, even legally speaking, they always say that an employer, since they don't have to employ you, they are free to employ you on conditions.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay? It follows. So there's no issue there. But of course, in relation to current employees, as Dr. Steve said, there could be issues of constructive dismissal.
Yes.
But what that means, of course, is that if you are using this as an indirect way to dismiss an employee is a problem. But again, if it is a reasonable request,
yes,
if it is a reasonable request, you say, hey, look, you are working outdoors here. I think there's a lot of mosquitoes. Can you please wear insect repellent because I don't want you to infect each other and so on and so forth. That would be reasonable. And in fact, in Ontario, recently there was a case of a lady who didn't want to wear a bra when she was serving people. Mm-hmm. And they dismissed her, and she went to court. And the issue there was it a reasonable request? She was a serving employee, but they said, is it a reasonable request? She was so lucky, they said it was a non-reasonable request, but I think she was lucky.
Yes.
Okay, let me just update you in 30 seconds on my matter. I haven't received any signed judgment yet. I've filed the appeal. I'm still waiting for the result of the second phase of my investigation against the judiciary from the Ombudsman. And finally, I got in touch with the Commissioner of Police. I want to file criminal charges against the two judges. He has responded to me, and he will assign an officer to it. He hasn't taken up the investigation, but he says he wants to sit down with me so that he can see what sections I think they can be charged. Now, I could have gone into that a little bit. I don't have time. But there are 4 sections of the laws where the two judges, particularly the first one, could be charged under neglect of duty, willful disobedience to law, and breach of trust, and as well as corruption. Otherwise, thanks very much. I thank you for your time. It's very good to listen to you today. I'll continue to listen.
Thank you, Mr. Billy. May I ask you, when are you going to come back?
Me? Well, I don't know. I should be back anytime. I mean, I always consider myself to be still in Cayman in the sense that every day you see I'm on the talk shows, I'm involved in the activities, beach access, and helping other people and so on. So I'm not quite sure. It's just a little bit hard to earn a living in Cayman.
Yes, that's the problem. That could be a problem. Believe me, I went through that already, Mr. Billy. I went through that in the early days. That could be a problem, and it could get where the doors are so closed that you start walking without any shoes on your feet.
Exactly, and otherwise, if it hadn't been for that, I mean, I made my efforts as well, including this thing I mentioned about teaching courses and so on, was all part of a desire to be, of course, part of the community, but also make a little bit of a living. But it proved a little bit difficult, so I said, well, let me get away for a little while. So I only come in and out, but mostly out these days. So.
Yes.
Okay, thanks very much. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for asking that. Thanks very much.
And thanks for calling.
Thank you very much, Billy. Thank you. Let's take another caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Also, just before I tell you what I was calling about, I think one day, whenever it's convenient for you, you should probably consider having a call-in program on global warming, because that's going to be...
Yes.
That's a very current topic right now. But I just want to add a few cents to the vaccination discussion. I have rights. I have rights too. We all have rights. Those of us who are actually vaccinated, we have rights, and we have also rights to try and protect the young children and those who are vulnerable in our society. So when those who don't want to vaccinate for some conspiratorial reason, because someone comes up with some really harebrained reasons as to why they don't want to get vaccinated, they'll change the DNA and the contents in the vaccine and this and that. And 1.3 billion people have taken 2 doses. 3 billion plus have taken 1 dose. But you don't see people falling down dead all over the world because of it. And I think I have a right to also protect those who are vulnerable, and especially the young, by insisting that right now science is on the side of the vaccine.
Yes, you're right.
And really, we have a war, whether you want to call it a war or not. We have a war against a virus, which is the global pandemic, and the only solution that the world has come up with, the scientists have come up with, is a vaccine that actually mitigates the effects of the killer virus by some 98%. And if you couple that with a face mask, which I think is going to be a mode of actual dress going forward, whenever you go out and very crowded areas, I think it's going to be useful to have a mask. I don't think there's nothing wrong with those of us who are pushing for the vaccine to be out there promoting it and encouraging those who are not vaccinated to please get vaccinated for the safety of all concerned, especially the vulnerable.
Yes.
Okay. So I mean, it was only that. I don't have much else to add. I mean, it's like we're fighting a very futile battle, and it has become quite political now. Unfortunately, it's become very political in the sense, like, you know, I'm not doing it because I have like some sort of hidden political agenda why I'm not doing it.
Yes, it is becoming political, and especially since people are saying that they want to take the government to court to get judicial review to challenge their decision. I think that is really extreme, and that and it's not helping. It's not helping the situation at all.
No.
And what it's doing is reinforcing the beliefs of people who doesn't really understand what the vaccine is all about, and it's not helping the government to get to the point where they can actually open up the country. And
Right.
that is the problem that the government is going to face. And I
Right.
want to say to those people, if the government is not able to open up the country because people are not complying with the government decision, what's going to happen? Where the money's going to come from to take care of all
Right.
the people
Right.
in case there's a
Right.
pandemic,
Right.
in case there's an outbreak here,
Right.
like in Jamaica and other places now where
Right.
hospitals are being overwhelmed.
Exactly. And I also think that that's why employers do have a right to insist that their employees are vaccinated, because some of them are, some of them are not. And next thing you have a business to run, and this virus is a real killer.
Exactly.
It has killed many millions of people around the world. So employers do have a right to protect their business.
And caller, is it your understanding
Yes.
that the government at this point in time is not mandating the vaccine for Caymanians? They are encouraging
Yes.
persons who can and want to take the vaccine to do so. They're not mandating it
Yes.
for Caymanians. Yes, they have indicated, and they will be going to Parliament to enact legislation to require work permit holders to be vaccinated, but
Right.
And the government has the constitutional power to do that.
Yes. Yeah. I think we have to face that we have as I said, we have a war. We're at war with a virus, and it doesn't just affect non-Caymanians. It affects all of us. And I think everybody who is eligible that can be vaccinated should be made to be vaccinated. There's nothing, unless they have some empirical evidence that this vaccination is going to be detrimental to their health. And perhaps there may be a few people who do have existing conditions that they can't take it, and they're the ones that other solutions will have to be found, including wearing a face mask. But everyone else who is eligible to get the vaccine must get the vaccine. It is nothing wrong with it. This nonsense about I'm not taking it because it is not approved. It's an experimental drug, and it is not 100%. Nothing is 100%, not even the truth.
okay.
So this has got to stop. We've got to open back up, and we have evidence on our side that everyone else who has tried to open up, every other country who's tried to open up with a high degree of risk, meaning about 50% vaccinated, which means they have 50% risk, have had a spike, and it has led to them having to have a close down again.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, caller.
Okay. We have to take a commercial break. We do have a caller on hold. We will take that caller as soon as we return. So please stay tuned. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're going straight to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome. Good morning, caller.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, OC. Morning, Dr. Steve Elvis here.
Good morning, Mr. Elvis.
Good morning in the farm. I just pull up my belly with these Indian mangoes so I can run my mouth now. Okay. You know, I just come out of campaign. I wasn't successful, but I campaigned on certain things. Now, one of the things that I said during, and I said it afterward, about the undocumented, that's what I like to call that, the political terms. I call them illegal people in your country, criminals or whoever it is, because sometimes you break the law of the country, you're a criminal. That's what he told me. Well, tell the government that if they get 4 police, 4 immigration officers, and do a full raid and take away all the illegal immigrants, I'm for sure for every one that they round up, I will get 2 people to take the vaccine. Okay? That's number 1. Now, Dr. Steve, this is a thing I campaigned on. You're talking about where we're going to get the money from if we have to lock the country down a little longer. Sir, if we take 0.25% of a 0.5% of the billions and trillions that going through here every day, because what we said, the financial industry is what? Bloom and blossom, and that's keeping us alive. So if you jug a 1% of it, or 0.5% or 0.25%, that can keep us for a long time. And like I said, it could send a lot of children to school too, and help the elder and the old people that need the medicine thing. Just think about how much money. Ask one of those accountants that making $300,000 a year or $500,000 a year, how much money they go through here. You guys have a nice day, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Elvis. Good point. And,
Yes,
you know, we're fortunate at this point in time that we find ourselves in the Cayman Islands in a very good financial position. Now, how long we can sustain it is another matter. The other thing that I want to mention also, Doc, is that some of those individuals who are opposed to the vaccine and the approach that the government has taken, they have not offered any viable, if they have offered any solutions, they have not been viable, and some have not offered any solution at all, none whatsoever. And sometimes I wonder whether or not the fact that we have only had, 1, possibly 2 deaths related to COVID-19 that we're aware of here in the Cayman Islands, whether or not that has allowed us to take so much for granted. And if it had been the other way, where similar jurisdictions to ours have had deaths in the double figures, whether or not people's thinking may be otherwise. You know,
I think so. And going back to what the last caller said, you know, that proposal was made around 1982, 83, probably 82 or 83, about taking 0.5% from funds that are passing through the Cayman Islands, the Cayman Islands every day. And that proposition was made by the late Jim Borden Jr. or Jim Borden II, Mr. Jim Borden's son, Jimmy. And that did not go down well. It was dismissed immediately by the establishment, and I don't know if it was dismissed by the establishment because it came from him, but it never catch on. And then I think it was back in the 1990s that I think people like Mr. Gilbert McLean and we made a sort of, not a study, but we looked at it, and we assumed the figures that they say that of the amount of funds that were passing through every day here, and we worked out that the government, if they took 0.5% of all the funds that were passing through here, that the government could have an extra $800 million in their coffer.
And that was then.
Then, whatever time, for instance, if the government say that had to be paid into the government in April, every April, the government would have $800 million extra in their coffers to build schools, to build hospitals, to pay for health care and whatever things the government wanted to do. That was then.
Okay. DJ Lynn, and a calls? Okay. One WhatsApp message again. This one says, ask them how they plan to mobilize their global assets to get this medication to the 7 billion people in the world. Is there a better solution? Has it been approved for COVID, or is it also wishful? In this war, we need fighters, not detractors. And then they go on to say, good point made by Dr. McPhail on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Also, in relation to work permit holders and the vaccine, doesn't the immigration law give the immigration authorities the right to consider, quote unquote, the interest of the community as a whole?
Definitely. The immigration law does that. In fact, even before the pandemic came, the immigration law has to give, in granting a permit, the immigration law has to take into consideration the interest of the community in granting that permit.
Okay. I believe one of our listeners, one of our writers had indicated about an anesthesiologist, and we're being notified that Dr. Andrew Brown, who is Dr. Hazel Brown's son, is an anesthesiologist. So whether or not the person was pointing out that that was in the family or whatever. But to question the abilities of Dr. Samuel Williams and Dr. Hazel Brown, and I know persons have been sending in things about Dr. Lee as well, but they have to also recognize that the decisions, they're not really making the decisions, the recommendations that they're making to government, based on research, based on information that they're getting from the various regulatory bodies and everything. But to discount them, and yesterday, on this radio station, Radio Cayman, someone had the temerity to suggest that an advisory panel or something similar to that should be established by the government of the Cayman Islands, and it should not include doctors from the Health Services Authority. What are they suggesting?
That's ludicrous.
There, are they indicating distrust for the government of the Cayman Islands? A government, and when I say government, I'm including the past one as well as the present one, who have navigated us through this COVID-19 pandemic, despite the fact that in some occasions they were severely criticized for the actions that they took, but they made us safe. And to suggest that our borders should not be closed, that we should open up our borders now
to get $1 more,
when we see what is happening in other jurisdictions. Bermuda, 33 deaths so far, and today they have reported that 19 cases have risen to 92 as more clusters of the coronavirus have emerged in Bermuda, and to suggest that our borders should not be closed, but only to suggest that people, if you want to take the vaccine, or if you're considering it, that you should get all of the information at hand, which we all agree. Inform yourself, get yourself informed as to whether or not you should take the vaccine. If you decide to take it, then take it. If you decide not to take it, then get out of the way of those persons
who wants to take it
and who may be vulnerable at the end of the day and may be exposed because of your decision not to take it. I know that's pretty strong what I'm saying there, but I've said it. We do have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. We have to take a commercial break, DJ Lynn, or are we just back from one? We need one? Okay, let's take the break and then we take the caller. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly. Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. We're going straight to the phone line. I believe we do have two callers on hold. So, first caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Mr. O.C., I just want to say something.
Yes, ma'am.
In relation to the government putting it in, law in place for persons coming into the country to be vaccinated, mandatory, that's fine with me. I have no issue with that whatsoever.
Okay.
I'm also happy with the fact that they're not enforcing Caymanians to go and get this vaccine as well, because everybody has liberal rights, and no government, no constitution, nothing can change your liberal rights. That's your own individual rights to what you want to put into your body. You don't have only God can tell you to change that.
Mm-hmm.
No human being can, no law can, no ruling government body can force that on you. But the other issue is that we are not trying to have the businesses that are affected the most. What I see is a lot of people are just sitting on their,
Mm-hmm. You can say laurels.
Laurels, okay. And not bothering to re-enterprise themselves. We are in a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
This is global. Mm-hmm. This is not going to change overnight with the reopening of any border for any country. It's still going to exist for time to come. And if you don't get the mindset now as a business owner, whether micro or small or a bigger conglomerate, whatever, to adjust the way you do business and to re-enterprise your business and remarket your business in a totally different area, or apply for
re-engineer it.
Yeah, basically. That's what I'm saying, is you're sitting there waiting for the borders to open so you can take your boat out with a bunch of people. How about localizing all your tourism and industry businesses? Reduce your fees and localize it and market it heavy locally. And you will see a big difference, because a lot of people want to do tourist stuff that, were never able to do it before because it was so overpriced. They couldn't take their entire family because the cost was so high. It would be better to have 4 trips a day at a shorter period of time for less money than waiting for 2 trips a day for a pile of people and a lot of and to make a lot more money.
Excellent
You
point.
can, over a period of time, volume counts, and quality as well. And you're sitting there waiting on X, Y, and Z to occur, and it's not going to occur. We have to change our mindsets now as business owners that this pandemic is here to stay for several years to come. And we can't constantly rely on the government to hand us out money. That can't continue to happen. And we also need to send home those people here that we're assisting on work permits that have no job and getting that tourism stipend. Because from what my sources have told me, they are getting the stipend and they're waiting for us to open. Send them home, train our people, put them in those positions. That's what we need to do. And re-enterprise yourselves as a tourist business and get out there and do other things. I suggest, here's a suggestion, and I've put it all over Facebook, but everybody ignore me because they think I'm a troublemaker, which I don't really care what they call me. Go to the Department of Commerce and Investment and talk to the director there. What's his name? Ryan something with a very long last name.
Ramna Kasson or something like that. Yes, Ramji Kasson. Yeah.
Have him temporarily suspend your current tourism industry license. Whatever money on that is there, you don't penalize you with reopening and you got to pay all these heavy fees again. Change that completely. Have the differences on that license into a temporary license for an alternate type of business. That's all you have to do. Why isn't the DCI getting on this? Why is that ministry not trying to assist? No, they're not bothering. They just want to gobble up everybody's money, and you're 1 day late paying your trade and business license fee. They lick you with all a pile of heavy fees. Nothing has been adjusted. We need to adjust fees going forward until we get through this pandemic, because if we don't, we're not helping the small and micro businesses to thrive. You are actually putting a hammer to them and slapping them and licking them over the head, and that's a bit unfair. Give them the opportunity to basically open up an extra side door of their business at a lesser fee and go on about things and do other things, alternate business services for what they were doing before, and don't penalize them. This is the problem I have with my government. You're penalized. Our government penalizes you heavily as a small and micro business, and it's very unfortunate, sir, because we are the belly of this country. It's not the big conglomerates; it's the small micro businesses. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I hope we can get some changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good points there. Good points, yes. And the point in terms of those in the water sport business and stuff like that. May I suggest some of you may want to conduct guided tours of our 7 Mile beach area and show the destruction that has taken place there. I'm sure that a lot of Caymanians, a lot of residents in the islands are hearing about it and maybe seeing videos of it. But how about, guided tours, $10 per person or something like that? Take them out there and let them see exactly what's happening on our, on our beaches as well. I think we have enough time to grab another caller before we go to Headline News. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Ochi and Mr. Mark.
Morning, sir. Good morning.
Yeah, concerning what you were saying earlier on pertaining to the vaccination and companies or owners or establishments is forcing workers. As Mr. Belika and Mr. Steve said previously, individuals that there should not, the company should not be able to force them to be vaccinated because they're already there in the work. Now, any newcomers, remember now, when I first came in there, I signed a contract. That contract didn't have nothing to do with no pandemic. You understand?
But it may you would have to look at the contract because the contract may not address it at all, and you can go in and amend the contract afterwards. Because the absence of it doesn't mean that it can't be put in.
Yes. And I'm saying that it can't be put in. It should not affected the individuals that were already there. If not any newcomers, I can understand this is what we want. If you wants to come in here, you got to abide by this. But whenever you go change a contract in the dock, sometimes you could have legal ramifications with it. Okay? Then again, coming back to the science and stuff behind it. I'm one of them. I'm sticking on the sideline. If I have to be vaccinated, I will. But for right now, I just want to make sure that the science can get it right. And don't come up with that excuse about so many billion people have taken it. Take, for instance, Israel, one of the highest vaccinated country in the world. And yet you see where they're going back in, lockdown again. And
don't miss the point there that in the majority of these cases, the persons who are proven, the higher percentage of those who are becoming infected are the unvaccinated. Bear that in mind.
Yeah, but who's spreading it? The same vaccinated individuals that have already been vaccinated, they're the carriers.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay?
Yeah.
Because they got this mentality that they're immune to never getting it again. And the science don't have that.
But they haven't said that you can't pass it on. They have a vaccinated person can pass it on.
Perception they were giving people at first when these vaccinated started, and nowadays they changed because the science have proved to them that they were wrong. And truthfully, as you're saying, sometimes Mr. George said, sometimes the truth can be wrong, and that's so true. And they're putting so much emphasis on Dr. Fauci, and his name has been getting called up in a lot of negative things. You understand? And at the end of the day...
The man is a renowned international expert when it comes to viruses. The man was the one who helped to solve the situation with Ebola. But I won't get there because that's not my area of expertise. I leave that to Dr. Fauci's peers to talk about him in that area.
Yeah, and then another one there you're bringing up where there was a gentleman on your show on Talk Today yesterday, a doctor, a Canadian doctor. They would like to set up a panel or a board and not have government doctors there. Right now we have Dr. Lee giving advice to the country, and that's not his line of specialty. You understand?
I addressed that earlier too. Dr. Lee is doing his research. He's getting advice from international bodies. These are not Dr. Lee's personal decisions
yes.
or views.
They may not, and he may be doing the research. Just like how he's doing his research. The general public is doing their research and analysis as well.
And I hope and I trust that it isn't from Facebook and YouTube.
Mr. Matthew and Mr. O.C., except one thing, almost everything the world uses nowadays is social media. So even if people are getting it from that, it don't have to be that it's not true or nowadays excuse fake news. Don't ever go by that, because the science, a lot of the doctors, a lot of the scientists are the same ones that putting some of the information out there. So I know right now we covered for time, and I would like to say more, but at the end of the day...
Feel free to call back. Feel free to call back, caller. We don't have a problem, engaging with you in conversation. Folks, top of the hour headline news. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. My pleasure to have in the studio with me Dr. Steve McFeel. We're going to continue to talk about this COVID-19 situation in the Cayman Islands as long as the conversation goes that way. But if we get an opportunity, we also want to talk about another problem concerning issue in the Cayman Islands, and that has to do with housing conditions. And we see the conditions that some people are living in 17 years after Hurricane Ivan as well. So, Doc, when we get an opportunity, we want to talk about that also. But we do have callers on hold in the meantime. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
That young man, you see, I know him. You know him too.
Oh, yeah.
He don't want to make nothing himself, but I can try with him. I can try. Mr. Smart, eh?
He has a lot of good things to say and sensible things, you know. We're not dismissing him at all.
Mm-hmm. No, but I don't mean for dismissing him now. I mean overall.
Okay.
He knows.
He knows what you're talking about, right?
yeah, he knows. I got fixing business. And how the lady that called before him, I know her too. I recognize the voice a little bit, but when she started that passionate stuff, then, oh yeah, that's my girl. And she says natural rights shouldn't be taken away and blah, 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 blah. Can't be taken away. If they exist, maybe we could use the word shouldn't, but we can't use the word can't. Shouldn't versus can't. They can be taken away if there are such things as natural rights that she was talking about. But maybe you say they shouldn't be taken away, but anything can be taken away from you. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Doc,
keep up the good fight.
Thank you. Doc, you have anything to say with that? What does a constitution say in relation to individual rights as opposed to when the government feels that it is in the public interest or public health?
Yes. Well, the government can make decisions to take away your rights if the aim of the decision is in the interest of defense, public safety, public order, public morality, or public health. The government can do it. So the question I would like to ask the caller or any other caller is this: if the government makes a decision or policy to say that all workers in the Cayman Islands who working in the private sector have to take the vaccine in the interest of public health. Would that be unconstitutional? Would they say that would be unconstitutional? And I don't think so, because the Constitution says it's not.
And it would be the courts would decide whether or not the government has approached that and gone about it in a proper and legal way.
Exactly. And whether it would be reasonable, justifiable in a democratic society. Those are the points that the courts would be looking after.
And people have to bear in mind is that at this point in time, the government has not indicated that they're going to mandate that people take the vaccine, other than in those cases when it comes to work permit holders as well. We do have a caller, DJ Lynn. Okay, we don't have a caller. Okay, I'll share this one with this WhatsApp message. Says, good morning, Mr. Connor, Dr. McFeel. Please be reminded that not because you're not causing a ruckus, that you're not being rebellious. Some of our population not taking the vaccine to make a stand in order to stop the country from opening for many reasons. One main reason is the circulation. One main reason being the circulation of the stipend. So some people don't want it to open up because they continue to get the government assistance. Wow. Now, and what I want to address also, Doc, is those persons who say, and I respect their views. I really, say I respect their views and I'm not going to dismiss them, but they say, I may take the vaccine, but I want to get more information about it. That is certainly a valid reason.
Yes,
but you know the reason that we have that luxury here in the Cayman Islands? Because we don't have people dying of the COVID-19 virus around us. We don't have that happening. And why we don't have that happening? Because of the measures that the government took before.
Early last year.
To keep us safe. So that luxury that you have to contemplate whether or when and whether or not you should take the vaccine, credit that to the actions of governments, the government present one as well as the previous one as well. We do have two callers. Let's go to the phone lines. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, hello.
Good morning.
Yes, hello.
Good morning. We're hearing you.
Yeah, yes, good morning, Mr. O.C.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning, Doc.
Hi. Good morning, sir.
Okay, but you said something as well ago that the government could make it or could mandate that the people must take this stuff mandatory in the private sector also, right?
Yes.
Okay, my question is now, how can we mandate something that there is no body to answer for if something goes wrong?
Well, that would be...
And then it's going into my body, and then I'm not getting the full information. Like the doctor said on their same station yesterday with what's the afternoon guy name again who works in your station?
Sterling Dwayne.
Yeah, Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. He said on it, there has not been any documented information that has been put out that the people can understand, so they can know what their choices are. So how can the government force somebody to take something that they did not know what they're getting into? And then at the end of the day, there is no recourse if, say, something happened to that person, because this vaccine is not made for everybody, just like milk is not made for everybody. Right? So when the person who takes this has an episode and something happens to him and he can't work, or he, God forbid, he dies, and he has to take away from his family, and he's the breadwinner in his family, what happens then?
Oh, I agree with that. I agree with all that. But this is what the Constitution says. It says that no law or decision of any public official shall be discriminatory if it has an objective and reasonable, justifiable, and is reasonably proportionate to its aim in the interest of defense, public safety, public order, public morality, or public health. And I'm saying that if the government uses that section to say that to go to work in Cayman, you have to have the vaccine, to be in the public places, so forth, that would not be discriminatory. It would not be unconstitutional.
And of course, caller, then if persons chose to challenge that decision of the government, then that is where the courts would step in and make a decision at the end of the day.
Right, but I just think the government needs to do more information on this to make the people feel more at ease with what their options are. Because it's not a choice, because you're given it two things. Either take it or you don't take it. So you don't really have no free will there. You have options. So if the government gave some more information or proper information, like everybody else goes online and goes in these doctors' stuff, and they could see and you hear real reviews and real stuff. Like nobody is telling you when you're going to take it. Okay, this is what it is. This is what's in it. This is the possibility of a side effect.
You do get some of that. No, caller, you do get some of that information.
Yes,
obviously, I shouldn't say. Well, I don't know whether or not you have been vaccinated, but if you have, some of that information is available.
Well, when I went, they can't tell me what's in it. That's the first thing. So they can't tell me what the effect of it's going to happen. If you cannot tell me what you're serving me, you can't tell me what it's going to taste like. And that's how it is. If you can't tell me what's in the vaccine that you're giving me, you can't tell me what the portion serving is going to be like.
Yes, that might be true.
Yeah.
But call it. Let me give you one instance. Many years ago, you heard about a prime minister in Canada called Mr. Trudeau, Pierre Trudeau.
I I think he
Yeah, the father of the current premier.
Father of the premier. Well,
Yes,
several years ago, there were an uprising in Quebec. And as a result of some radicals in Quebec kidnapping, it was a kidnapping of an English diplomat and a French-Canadian official.
right.
And they couldn't find those people. The ordinary police force couldn't find where those kidnappers had those people held. And so Trudeau invoked what we call a War Measures Act, an act to go to war. And the act, what that act does is take away all your civil liberties. You have no rights whatsoever as long as that the provisions of that act is the proclamation of that act is in force. No civil liberties. They can arrest you from walking on the streets. They can arrest you from your house. They could arrest you from everywhere. And when that was challenged in the courts, the Canadian court says that it was in the interests of public order and public safety, and therefore and because it was in interest of public safety and public order, it trumped the civil rights provisions of in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. So if the safety of the public is challenged, or if the public order of the country is challenged, or the public health or public morality is challenged, the government can bring in measures to trump your civil rights in the interest of public morality, public health, public order, or public safety.
Well, the interest
They can suspend those rights that you talk about.
No, but
And I
in the
talk
interest of
about.
survival. If the interest of survival, I believe that should be so, because if something is detriment in Cayman and we have a cure or we have a way to get rid of it, and then the people don't want to take it, but it's detrimental to our survival, of course, I believe the government should step in, and I think that's why they are appointed too.
So you don't think you don't think COVID-19 is it could be a detriment to our survival?
Yes.
We have over 3-point-something million people throughout the world who have died of COVID-19 so far.
That's true. No, but something could be. It's a possibility, but it's not even close to that yet with all the 2 deaths.
And that is because of the success that the government has had in terms of doing what they have done to control it.
Well, I give it to the government and the people of the Cayman Islands because they complied.
Oh yes, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. There has to be a couple. There has to be a couple. There has to be a marriage, and there is a marriage between the government and the people. And you have to commend us for doing that. That's why we're ahead of the game.
Yeah, and caller, need you to recognize that what we're not suggesting is that there should be an adversarial approach to this. At the end of the day, we need everyone to get on board one way or the other.
Yes.
Well, with the right information, I believe everybody would. But it's too much up and down.
Yeah.
And then the next thing, all my life for the last 4 to 5 years, I've learned one thing: to fight or to denounce communism and to denounce dictatorship. And this is showing me to accept all of that now. That's how I feel within myself. That's what this push.
The communist countries and the dictatorships not doing too well with the COVID-19 either.
Yes.
No, but I'm just saying, this is what it seems like. All my life we've been taught this is not good, but now they're telling us, take it or leave it.
Okay. Caller, I want to thank you.
Thank you for your insight.
Stay safe
very
as
points.
well. We have to take a commercial break. We do have callers. We have WhatsApp messages as well, but we will cover all of those if time allows. So please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly. Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. We do have callers on hold, so here we go, straight to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello again, gentlemen. I just want to trip in here, and I keep saying this and can't get it done. What about, I'm an old woman, right? What about 60-odd years ago when, vaccines, things like common things you think about, measles, mumps, rubella, etc. It was a time when it seemed to me in my parents' conversations that they were being, of course, encouraged, if not forced, if not pointed down the road to have these things done to their children. Some of those children had reactions. Some of them went through just a little sniffles and the fever. But basically, we still live under, I think, that policy, because when we go to enroll our young children in school, we have to show our vaccination cards, and if not, I think the government does something to vaccinate them at the time. I really don't know how it works. That continues on when our children are going off to overseas institutions for higher education. They also have to go through a protocol that shows that they are vaccinated for this, that, and the other, whatever the country calls for. So I think we're facing no more than that here. But the thing is, like the last caller said, right information. We need to have that right information, and people have to trust the information coming from the government. I don't know how we're going to get that trust, because, like I know, we don't really much trust in the government. So how we can get to that? And sometimes, the country has to get, like last gentleman said, get to a take it or leave it place. But there's a process and a protocol to get to that. So in my mind, I think that's what people are asking for. Information, correct information that when it seems negative, you put it out there, as well as when you can get it to the public in a form that is positive. Just give people the correct information, and I hope we don't get to take it or leave it place in this country, though I can see worldwide that I believe it's coming to that. You're going to take it or leave it. And my mother is vaccinated. It nearly killed me, but I went and got my own. Neil died, swear to God. But we're going to have to just roll up our sleeves, because it's coming to this, and we can say France and this thing and that thing, and they're out there hooping and hollering, but people are dying too. And millions of people have died.
Yep.
People are dying. So
I think I said 3 point something before. It's actually 4.34 worldwide.
That's a debate to have. What happens to the economies of countries. Anyway, those of us who are hesitant, they are hesitant for a reason. We got a few that just nothing you tell them they gonna want to do. We have those kind too. But some people are hesitant for a reason. But the government has to find a way that people can trust us, even for just one time. And I tell you the truth about our newly minted Minister of Health. She struck a good balance when she made a speech. I think it might have been last week. She struck a good balance, and she continued down that road. I know she will bring in people that need to be brought in. It might not be everybody, but some people just truly want the right information, whether it's good or bad, and to whatever.
Good point. Thank you. Thank you very much for that caller. DJ Lynn, how many callers we have on hold still? We have 2 callers. We're going to try to take those 2 callers in 6 minutes, which means 2.5 minutes for each caller, because we do have the Premier in the studio, the Honorable Wayne Panton, and we're going to close the phone lines off afterwards. This was not planned, but we're certainly grateful to have him in the studio with us. So let's take these last 2 callers. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy birthday too.
What? Today was my birthday.
It ain't?
Yes, yesterday. How you know that?
We have a way of finding out.
Oh, boy. Well, 2.5 minutes not enough for me, but I'll try to say what I can say.
Okay.
You know, I've been listening to majority callers and the lady in regards to, you know, these free taxi drivers and the big buses, especially, you know, try to do something with the locals and so forth. I think that's a very good idea. Very good idea. Get them out there and do a little tour with them and so forth. Give them a good price. You know, and I come to the conclusion that like what Mr. Franklin Smith said many years ago, he said if something doesn't say USA on it, they doesn't want to buy it. And he was talking about his mangoes and bananas and so forth many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we go and we can buy the groceries and we come home and we open them and we eat that with so much confidence and don't even think about getting poison or any skin rash or everything. We just gobble it down and feel good. Okay? Now today we got more technology than we had many years ago when we were making vaccines for the polio and from polio right down to measles and so forth. And we got more technology today and we had them days. But apparently this one that is made now for the coronavirus is made too quick and we don't know. They keep saying they don't know what's in it. But I think what's really messing up the world, OC, is that social media. Too much false information is coming out. And you know, Cayman from day one had that low mentality that we refused to come out of to a degree. And if the past government did what they did for us, I just wonder how many of us would be left here on this island today. So I just want to say kudos to the past government. And I feel that we need to just pray about it and do what is right because, OC, if it comes, when it comes and it hits your grandmother, your grandfather, and your mother, then you got to say, I wish I had told them to take it. I wish I had taken it. But you see, we haven't got to that position here in Cayman. That's why we got the mentality is still low in regards to this COVID. I am not telling anyone to take it. But if the government says that they have to take it because of a work permit and so forth now, I agree they're 110%. And like the lady said earlier, those that is here on a work permit, that is no work for them, let's send them back home with the option that they will return back when our borders is open. The borders
Caller, we're running out of time.
Yes.
I know. I see what I tell you.
You're 2 minutes. Okay. Go ahead. Finish up.
You know, our borders will open one day. And I don't think that everybody sitting down home got their hands full to a degree looking for the Skyping. Because let me tell you something, OC. If people think that Skyping is doing a whole lot for me taxi drivers, they got a big mistake. My car, that's the when I've been going 95% now when I've been going in my car. I don't have to my car yesterday. The engine light come on now. I can't even drive my car. Check
engine, yeah. Okay. Caller, thank you. Thank you very much for that. We still have 2 callers that we want to accommodate. Next caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Susie. Good morning.
Good morning.
Always good to hear you both. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning,
I see
sir.
a lot of people are now coming around my way. I've talked about direct income tax. And Mr. Gilbert and myself, I talked about it 2 years ago. And just a salary tax would bring in easily over $300 million a year. Just a salary tax, easily. Probably much more than that if that's done in depth. As far as information goes, the people hear what they want to hear. There's lots of information bit out there, and I disagree with people saying there's not enough. If I'm the only one who disagrees with them, I don't care. I don't have Facebook. I don't go on internet. I don't nothing of the sort. But I listen to Dr. Hazel Brown, Dr. Lee talking, Dr. William Rodriguez, and many times when they went around talking and explaining things. And if you need more information than that, I don't know what more you want. It's not that. I think we hear what we want to hear. If you want to drive a car, you have to have insurance. It's mandatory.
And you have to have a driver's license too.
And you have to have a driver's license. You accept that. If you want to work in the private sector, you have to pay for insurance, group insurance, and it doesn't really cover very much, and it costs more than most people can afford. But that's mandated. I can't understand people when they're saying the government can't. In the interest of the majority, they must have the say when it comes to something so serious and detrimental.
So true.
Health. We have to understand that. Please stop talking about information. For God's sake, we be inundated with that forever, and these same people will say the same thing with not enough information. Not enough. That is ridiculous. I'm sorry, but that's my take on
Thank you. Thank you very much, caller. One more caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O.C.
Good morning, good morning. Great to hear from you.
Thanks for taking my call. I've been very quiet recently, but I've been trying to process everything that I'm hearing and trying to formulate some sort of a reasonable response. And I thank the last caller for his point that we have been given lots of information. We have been sharing information with the Cayman public. And there are a couple of concerns I'd like to address right now. First of all, I want to address the concern about the government and the public health service and who should be advising government and that sort of thing. So first of all, I'd like to speak, and with all of the deepest love and respect for my people, I have to speak to sources of information. So recently, we've been hearing a lot from a Caymanian physician, and I'm saying this, like I said, with all the deepest respect for the individual. I don't know him very well, but I know of him. He's got many, many years as a family medicine practitioner in the United States. He's been home. He retired some years ago and moved home. He is not the expert in public health, in communicable disease, in vaccination programs. And I would like for our people to understand where the source is, what the source is. I have been in this public health service for 40 years, over 40 years now. I have investigated communicable disease outbreaks. I have walked the soles of my shoes off, chasing malaria, chasing chicken pox, doing vaccination programs, running mass campaigns. Dr. Samuel Williams is a public health professional who has been with our service for many years. Dr. Lee, while public health may not be his background, public policy is one of his strengths, and he has learned well through this pandemic. When we were tooling up last year in January, when we were called to try to put together a respiratory care unit, this particular physician was not involved. At no point in time can I tell you that he volunteered his time to come and help us track cases, to help us admin programs when the vaccine programs came about, and we were inviting people in the public to come forward to volunteer to assist us. I got volunteers from people who, and two of my greatest volunteers were out of the UK, health practitioners who had retired here, who came here and worked with us shoulder to shoulder. We have to be careful where we're getting our information from. This good doctor is entitled to his opinion, and no one is likely to try to take that from him. But when my opinion is forced upon someone else, or when I am using my opinion to try to change the minds of a group of people or a population in the midst of a pandemic, it becomes irresponsible. And I believe that my people need to look to the sources where they're going to get scientific information. Opinion is not the place to look right now. Our borders cannot stay closed, OC. We have to reopen. And right now, the Health Services Authority is preparing for a surge. I've said it on many occasions. We are a small population. The Delta variant is highly infectious. We've got Lambda coming up in Central and South America. All of them are going to reach our shores. You know who's going to be bearing the brunt of this surge? OC, it's going to be the public health nurses who are going to be put to the ground, to the hot asphalt, going into every little nook and cranny of Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac and Little Cayman to find cases, to identify contacts, to ensure that people are quarantined, to feed people when they are quarantined because no one else will go to them. It is going to be our intensivists, not our family medicine. It is going to be our intensivists who are going to be putting their lives on the line every single day to try to save the lives of these same anti-vaxxers. You have a right to your opinion. You have a right to make your choice. But we are irresponsible when we take that misinformation out to try to convince a whole population that their public health professionals do not know what they are saying.
Yep. That's true.
Amen.
Yes, amen, ma'am. Amen, ma'am. And I can tell you, I have a son who is a doctor in America. He's a surgeon in the States, and I get the information from him, and he tells he supports what's happening here in Cayman, and he said that we are very lucky that we made the decisions when we did, and that of all the people in the world, that we, this small country, did what was right, and that is the reason why we had no deaths up until today.
Dr. Hazel, I want to thank you very much for that. We have to go to a commercial break now, and when we return, we will hear from the Honorable Wayne Panton, Premier of the Cayman Islands. So please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly, and if we have to go beyond 10 o'clock, no better person to go beyond that time than the Premier of the Cayman Islands, even though I know he's not going to push his weight around, but I'll push it around for him. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. And I just want to say I have so many WhatsApp messages, and I apologize if I'm unable to address all of them this morning. But we do have the Honorable Wayne Panton, Premier of the Cayman Islands, in the studio with us. Mr. Premier, good morning, sir. Welcome back.
Good morning. Good morning to you, OC, and good morning to our wonderful Mr. McFeel.
Thank you, sir.
It's always a pleasure to listen to you guys, and it's an even greater pleasure to be able to sit around the table with you. I wanted to come in this morning. As you know, it wasn't planned, as you said, so I wanted to just come over and spend a few minutes talking with you and talking with our wonderful people of the Cayman Islands. We've had lots of discussions about this issue, about getting the vaccine and the public health crisis that we have going on. And luckily, and I've said before that we have to give credit to the previous government for the approach that they took in making this a public health crisis that we haven't had to confront directly because of the hard decisions that were taken. But we see it going on around the world, all around us. And people need to really take this seriously. We're at a point where we're moving towards, and we've announced a plan to reopen. And the reality is we have one main tool, and we have other public health protocols that can help address the risk that will be coming up. But the main tool we have is the vaccine. And we're getting a vaccine from the United Kingdom for free. The government doesn't have to pay for this. And they have committed to providing enough vaccinations for 90% of the population. Right? This is, by all accounts, it is the best vaccine, or certainly one of the best vaccines that we have in relation to SARS-CoV-2. We know that it does not necessarily prevent infection. We know that people who are infected can infect other people. It doesn't mean that it's, as if you were unvaccinated. I think it does provide assistance with limiting infection. I think it does provide assistance with minimizing how much you infect others. But that's a question that is unclear. What is very clear by what's going on around the world is that it has a major benefit in limiting the extent to which people get sick and limiting the extent to which people die. So that makes it a major, major tool for us to help address our risk that will come along with reopening. Right now, as of this past Monday, we have just stopped geotagging people, the 5-day vaccine group. There are people that have expressed concerns to me about that.
Yes.
Right? My attitude is that's a very minimal uptick in risk. We are doing random checks to see if we catch anybody that is not adhering to the rules and not quarantining. But that's a very minimal uptick in the risk. If we can't handle that, then I don't know how we're going to learn how to handle dealing with this down the road. Because I don't believe, and people need to understand, this is not going to go away in 6 months' time. We are going to have this well into 2022, maybe into 2023, maybe longer than that. It may become, just something just like the flu, where it comes around every season and this kind of thing, and we have to learn to deal with it. But the essential thing for us, our people, to understand is the vaccine is a tool that we have available to us, and there is apart from what happened in April and May when we were pushing to get vaccines out because we had a lot that was expiring. We have a date which is fast coming up, which is October 14th. That is the day that we are planning to stop quarantine requirements for people who are vaccinated. Now, I need people to understand there's a 5-week process, right? You're between your first shot and your second shot is 3 weeks, and then you need another 2 weeks after that second shot to get to a point where you are regarded as fully immunized. Your body has had the time to develop the full immunization. And they need to be working back from October 14th at the latest, right? So that means we only have a couple of weeks where people need to start getting out there and getting that full shot, so that they will have the opportunity to get the second have the 3 weeks go by, get the second shot, have the 2 weeks go by, and then be fully immunized, because the risk is going to go up. Now, can I guarantee you that we are not going to change something on the plan? I can't guarantee that, because we have to see how it looks a couple of weeks out. Right?
So nothing is carved in stone.
Nothing can be carved in stone. You know, if you see a car crash coming, and you know it is likely to happen, would you not take measures to try to avoid it? Would you not put the brakes on and pull off the road and position yourself in a way that you avoid or minimize the chances of that crash? Of course you would. And I want people to understand that the government cares about every single person, right? In the BVI, they've had 37 people that have died. There is nothing that has driven home the reality more in BVI than what has happened over the last month and a half, 2 months.
And they have dumped 800 and something vials of the vaccine because it expired.
Right. I mean, that's just madness. It's just madness. We've had. I mean, I think recently there was a pastor of one of the churches who was advocating don't take the vaccine. Guess what? He caught COVID and he died. You know, this is not something that we should be playing games with. People can have whatever view they want, but don't try to sell the idea to people, as Nurse Hazel said, that, you know, that there is some other choice and that people shouldn't take this. They shouldn't trust the government. They shouldn't trust their own local health professionals. These are the very people that are going to be trying to, as she said, trying to save your life when you are sick and dying with COVID. And they're exposing themselves to that risk because they took an oath and they care, and it's a part of their job to try to save your lives. The passion with which she spoke, I wasn't aware that she was going to call in, but I applaud her to the extreme for what she said there.
Yes.
Because she's 100% right. You know, this is not something that people should take lightly. Yes, get yourself informed. But listen, getting yourself informed is not about going on the internet and watching every YouTube video that some person decides they're going to put on there. Getting yourself informed is about going to your doctor, going to your health services authority and getting information. Trusting your government, who is... Listen, there are millions and millions and millions of people in public health. Maybe, I don't know, hundreds of millions of people in public health around the world working on a crisis like this, learning as they go along and putting information together, making best of information available at all times. We don't need people who are speculating and talking nonsense and trying to bring that into the perspective of individuals who simply are looking for information because they have some concerns. Everybody should have concerns, but the way you address those concerns is by trusting your local doctors, trusting the HSA.
Yes.
Do not go and look on the internet and say, well, some guy said this, which is different from what our local people have said, so I'm going to believe him as opposed to them. Who do they know? You know, do you know Dr. Hazel Brown? Is she one of our Caymanian stalwarts in health generally and public health in particular? Yes. Do you know some guy that claims to be a doctor or something from somewhere in the middle of the United States who has a contrary view? No, you don't know him. Trust the people you know. Trust the people you know. And I just want people to understand that the government wants to make sure that, and this is not a popularity contest, because you can hate us today, but if you're alive a year from now, I don't care whether you say thanks a year from now or whether you're still expressing hate, but if you can express an opinion a year from now, then you're alive to tell us that, and that we will have achieved what we wanted to achieve, right? Yes, we know the challenges we have. We know we've got to try to reopen at some point. But we have to balance these interests, and we have to try to make adjustments. I know the industry is demanding that we give a certain date and we stick to it. But how do we do that when we come where we are with no local transmissions, no hospitalizations or no significant hospitalizations? I mean, we do have people who come in who are in quarantine and end up in hospital, but not from local transmission. And we haven't had any significant. We've had 2 deaths, but none of those people were our own people. You know, if we lose 5 of our own people here, that is going to be a reality. That is going to be a serious check on the way people see things. That you know, because of this bubble that we're in, I think people have let their guard down and they feel the freedom to have their minds wander all over the place about this issue. But it is a serious issue, and we are now coming up to, in accordance with our plan, we're now coming up to periods when the risk starts to go up considerably. So people need to be, should you be afraid? Yeah, but don't be afraid of the advice that you're being given by our local doctors here. Don't be afraid of the advice you've been given by our public health officials. Be afraid of the virus. Be afraid of not listening and not doing what you need to do in order to protect yourself, and more importantly, to protect all of those around you who may not be able to get the vaccine, because we have a lot of children that are under 12 that right now cannot get the vaccine.
Yes.
We have people who are older who are seriously immunocompromised, or they have other, maybe they have certain specific allergies that are not eligible to take it. Those are the people that we need to care about as well as our own health. And those are the people we need to be doing what we need to help protect this. This suggestion that I've heard in the last few days that it's vaccinated people that are transmitting the virus, that is not true. Look at the statistics. The vast majority of people that are ending up in the hospitals are the people who are unvaccinated.
Yes.
And when I say vast, we're talking about 90+% usually. 90+% of those that are dying are the unvaccinated people. Why do people want to put themselves in that category of risk? They don't. So I want the people of the country to understand that as a government, we absolutely care. We care about all the considerations. We care about the economic considerations. We care about trying to get the balance right in terms of opening the borders, taking on the additional risk. But we recognize that in order to do that, we have to have the best layers of protection available to us, and that absolutely means people need to go out and get this vaccine. And we're given the world's best, or one of the world's best vaccines that are available to us for free by the United Kingdom. Don't miss this opportunity. And the time limit is getting really compressed now. We're down to a couple of weeks within which people need to go and get the vaccine, get their first shot, so that they can be fully immunized when we get around October 14th and we start lifting the quarantine. Now, as I said, we can't be 100% certain about that, but at this point, there's nothing telling us not to do it, but we're going to assess it a couple of weeks out and a week out, and we'll make a decision at that time as to whether it makes sense. As I said to you, if we see a car crash coming, we're going to try to get off the road and avoid it.
Certainly. Mr. Premier, can you speak to any impending legislation going to Parliament?
Yes. I think I had mentioned somewhere else recently, and I did in the LA in the last Parliament session we had, that we were going to amend the Immigration Transitions Act to specify that work permit renewals and work permit grants needed to include vaccination, in the same way that you have to demonstrate other medical tests to show that you don't have TB and all this kind of stuff.
Yes.
This is something that we are going to ask for under the Constitution, as Mr. McFeel well knows. We have the ability to. Normally, there's a 28-day window. It used to be 21, and on the basis of the last amendments last year to the Constitution, it was increased to 28 days. That's the normal period of time, or the normal minimum period of time within which you give notice of of any kind of legislation, or primary legislation, which would be acts or laws as we used to know them. But now we also still have this same provision that existed previously, which says that basically in an emergency, I, as Premier, can certify that there's a legitimate basis for bringing this on short notice.
Yes, yes.
And if public health is not a legitimate basis for doing it, then I don't know what is.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so we intend to provide sufficient notice, because we're just talking about amendment, right? And this is not a whole bill. So we intend to provide sufficient notice, reasonable notice, but bearing in mind that we are under a time limit and we're trying to get this done as quickly as possible. I will be certifying a shorter period.
Okay.
To move this forward.
Right. And for those who may have concerns about the government mandating the vaccine for everyone, including Caymanians, can you address that, please?
I think I've said it several times before. I'm happy to say it every time. We are not considering mandating the vaccine for everyone. I don't know. I don't think it's impossible, but I don't think it's something that any of us have ever really considered. And I don't think the previous government necessarily considered it. Well, I mean, they may have asked it as a hypothetical, but not in the sense that they really truly considered that as a policy directive or direction, I should say. And that's our position as well. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to push as hard as we can to encourage people to get the vaccine, because we want people to live. We want our people to have, and our economy and our country to have the best possible chance of reopening safely whenever that actually happens. We need to have the best tools available to us. We've seen what's happened in the U.S. This notion, this heavy push against vaccination, and even the southern states that are where it's really prevalent. This anti-vax perspective is really prevalent. They're the ones that are suffering the most. And I want to tell you something. I have permission to say this lady's name, right? We all know a lady in Cayman named Terry Marion. She's American born, but she's as Caymanian in her heart as any of the rest of us now, right? She's married to one of the local members of the Marion family. And she won't come on and do this herself, but because she doesn't feel comfortable public speaking, but she basically is imploring people to listen and address this, because she comes from Alabama, and you can't get more deep south, and you probably can't get more red.
Crimson Tide.
Yes, right? Yes. Exactly. Crimson Tide for a reason, right? She has been going through absolute torment for months. So many of her friends, family of her friends have been dying from COVID. And we're not talking about 80-year-old people. We're not talking about 90-year-old people. Wow. We're talking about people who are in their 20s and 30s, who are in their 40s. People that she went to school with, children of people that she went to school with are dying. And she has, I forget the number, but she's basically said, tens of people that just in her little, her circle that have been dying. And all because people have the view that the vaccine is not something they should be taking. And what has been happening is, and we've heard it reported all over, when people are sick and dying in the hospital, that's when they're begging. That's when they're begging for the vaccine. Yes. If you're a person of faith, if you go before God and you're standing there and it's at the end of the road, you can't then turn around and if you really truly believe in salvation and you believe that you're supposed to have lived in a certain way and all that, you can't turn around and say to God, and listen, my intention right now is pure. Forget about what happened in my early part of my life, right?
Yes.
You can't. It's not much different there. You can't beg for a solution that has been available to you all along, and you refuse to take it. Yes. It reminds me that joke about the guy who is stuck on the island, and a raft comes along with somebody on and says, "Hey, I'll give you a ride." And he said, "No. I'm God is going to help me." Yes. A boat comes along. No, God is going to help me. A helicopter comes along. No, God is going to help me.
Yep.
And when he dies, he says to God, "Hey,
yes,
I waited and I asked." He said, "Well, I sent a raft, I sent a ship, and I sent a helicopter to help you." You know, so this vaccine, I mean, that kind of downplays it a bit, but this vaccine is derived by the God-given intelligence that we have. You know, and it's nothing new. It's been something that's been in development for decades. Yes. They've been working on this for 30, 35 years. This new mRNA. But yes, there are other versions too. I mean, but it's the mRNA one that is available to us for free now. And then, you know, the UK, as I said, have given us the commitment to provide it. It is recognized as, if not the best, one of the top 2 best vaccines. So I really, again, and I'm going to keep doing it till I'm hoarse, I'm going to beg people.
Yes.
I am imploring. I'll get on my knees and beg people to take this vaccine. It is going to help our country. It is going to help keep our people alive. Right? It is not 100% guarantee. Of course not. I don't know. Maybe there is a vaccine that's 100% guarantee. I don't know. But most vaccines don't advertise as being 100% effective. But what they
and
are,
our bodies are all different.
Yes, right. What they do is they help to significantly knock down the prevalence, and then it reduces the transmission of this stuff. I mean, smallpox used to be 30% fatality, right? And we through medical technology, through vaccines, we have been able to eliminate that risk. I mean, the MERS virus, which is not too dissimilar to this one, that had a rate of 30%, fatality rate of around 36%, I think. Imagine if that was as transmissible as this one is, with that kind of fatality. Imagine what we would be facing, absolute Armageddon-like catastrophe for the world, right? And we have a solution to address this one. And talking about the MERS thing, 36% fatality, who knows? If we let this virus continue to mutate, and it can't mutate unless it's infecting people, right? If we let it continue to mutate, it may well start increasing the fatality rate. It may well become stronger and create more fatalities. So it is nothing to play with. So if we can minimize the transmission, if we can minimize our people getting sick and dying, that is a solution for us. And I don't know how. I wish Nurse Hazel, Dr. Hazel, she has so much other stuff to do, but when somebody like her speaks with such conviction and passion, I wish she could be on the radio or on TV or on social media 24 hours a day trying to inform people. Yes. Right, but you have your day job to do too. But I listened to you gentlemen earlier, and you brought a level of wisdom and clarity to the issue, and I want to thank you very much for. And it's not nothing to do with supporting governments' aims and objectives and policy. It's about supporting what's best for the
This is a nonpartisan issue.
The people of your country. So thank you both very much, and I want to thank all of the people out there who have gone and gotten vaccinated. Continue to go to do it. Please go out and I want to see 1,000 people a day going and getting vaccinated over the next 10 days. That will help us more than exceed our goal. Our goal of 80% of the population, honestly, that may not be enough to prevent people from dying, right? We may still have transmission. This Delta variant is one that is creating havoc right now, and even though it doesn't help to necessarily eliminate it. I mean, this vaccine, it will reduce the risk of people getting terribly sick and dying, and that is the most critical thing for us, the most critical thing. So please, folks, go out get the vaccine. Go on, you can go on HSA .ky, I think it is, or just search or go on the gov.ky website, and you'll find the information on COVID and the schedule for vaccines. Call the HSA if you want. Call me if you want. I'll find it for you. I'll come and drive you.
Yes.
I'll come and hold your hand. I've done that before. I'll come and hold people's hand because I feel so passionately that we have got to do this. We've got to help save our people and save our the lives and help to create the best possible opportunity for our country to do what very few, if any, countries have done, and that's reopen safely and stay open. I don't want to see 5 people dying. I don't want to see 37 people dying. Bermuda has had a lot as well. I don't know what their numbers are. They're in the 30s and 40s too, in terms of people dying.
I think it's 34 maybe, or something around there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, please, that is not something that's not a burden that a government wants to bear, and that's not a burden that society should have to bear.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you all very much. Thank you for accommodating me.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. We're so happy that you came on, and you were able to explain that to your people, and we really appreciate it.
Yep.
And we really appreciate it because we know that not only politically, but we know that personally you're a people's person, and you're a people's man. And we really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And we're going to close with this. This one says, I've noticed that everyone has become complacent with stressing that the world is, quote, still in a pandemic, close of quote. Needs to be shouted from the hills. Remind them of 1918 to 1920 pandemic. How many people died, how many that were finally eradicated, as well. So we need to continue to shout it from the hills. If you can get vaccinated, please do so. Premier, I want to thank you very much. Mm-hmm. I want to thank everyone for being so patient as well. I want to thank the management of Radio Cayman for allowing us to go beyond the 10 o'clock hour, but this is something that is extremely, extremely important to all those who are pro-vaccination as well as those who are sitting on the fence and are hesitant or undecided as well. Folks, have a great day. As usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these 3 beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands. And I think, Premier, you're going to be with us again on Monday here in the
Yes,
studio.
sir. I intend to.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
So thank you. And have a wonderful weekend to everybody.